Good morning. We're going to listen. Well, hopefully you're going to listen. I'm going to talk. We're going to do chapter 7, listening, receiving, and responding. So, what we're going to start with right now, I'm just going to do this, section 1. And what we're going to start with is the nature of listening. This is what you have to understand so we can move forward. So, listening is such a crucial skill for people to have. There's a graphic that you see that's actually almost 10 years old, if not a little bit more, where they asked college students how they spent their time, and they indicated that they spend more than 55% of their time listening, whether it's listening to other people, college professors, friends, or if they're listening to media, music, TikTok, or blogs or things like that. Students in the past have told me that they don't think they spend 17% of their time reading, which is horrifying. But if you don't spend that much time reading, do you think you're spending even more time listening? So that's an interesting thing to think about. It's not just in school where it's important. Executives, CEOs, managers, supervisors say they spend about 60% of their time listening. And people who've done analysis of the workplace say that listening is the most common behavior. I'm going to say people sometimes fake that they're listening, but that is the behavior that they are expected to do more than any other ones. Beyond school, beyond work, listening is a crucial skill for any of your relationships. If you are not a good listener, your partner, a family member, a friend, your romantic partner is not going to be as satisfied as if you were an effective listener, and vice versa. If the person you're with is not a good listener, not good. Okay, what exactly is listening? Simply, it's the process of receiving messages and responding to messages. People sometimes confuse listening and hearing. Hearing is a physiological process. It's what happens when sound strikes the eardrum and causes vibration that are transmitted to the brain. Unless you're sticking your fingers in your ears saying, no, I'm not listening, you're actually hearing something. Listening, on the other hand, is not automatic. It actually takes a little bit of time and effort to be a good listener. I really like this graphic that shows the Chinese character for listening and what you see, what goes into good listening. It's the ear, it's the eyes, it's the heart, and possibly my favorite, it's undivided attention. And to me, this is what separates mindful listening from mindless listening. We do a lot of mindless listening where we're just reacting automatically to what a person has said and we haven't really paid a lot of attention to it. In another section, we're going to talk about pseudo listening, and I think this is a kind of mindless listening. But the book asks the question, why can mindless listening be valuable? And think about that. I'll post that as a discussion question for you. If you're not mindless listening, then you should be mindfully listening, which means you're giving careful and thoughtful attention to the message, and you're giving thoughtful and careful attention to how you're going to respond to the messages that you receive. So there are 4 basic kinds of listening styles, and on page 200 in the text, there's just a few questions for you to answer to assess what is your listening style. Each of us can use all of these styles, but that assessment is asking you to figure out which one you use most often. So task-oriented listening is when your goal is to be efficient and to accomplish a task. And so you are only listening to that information which forwards your agenda, which is great. You can be very efficient, but you might sacrifice a little bit of personal relations if you're doing this kind of listening. Not really opposite, but a very different kind of listening is relational listening. Your purpose, if you are doing relational listening, is to build emotional closeness. So you might do this with a friend, or if you are or have a therapist, this is the kind of listening a therapist would do. Analytical listening I would argue is very hard for people these days, maybe more than any other time, because you have to attend to the whole message before you make up your mind about it. And I think a lot of us, we make up our mind even before the person has started speaking. So with analytical listening, it is something that you would do when the message is really important. Critical listening is, people do this when they are evaluating the message that the other person is giving. I find myself doing this especially when I'm teaching public speaking, because my job in that class is to listen to someone speak and to give feedback and to tell them this is what worked, this is what didn't work. So you need to figure out when you use these kind of listening styles, and also think about, for the career that you want to go into, what style of listening would be most beneficial overall, and can you see that you would use each of these styles when you are doing that job. I'm going to take a little break, and then we'll come back and do section 2.